In many ways, Star Wars The Last Jedi is the perfect Star Wars movie, not just from a fan's perspective, but also from Disney's, because it becomes crystal clear that this franchise is never going anywhere. Literally, so much happens, and yet nothing happens. There are so many deaths, and yet nobody dies. Basically, at the end of the movie, you realize for as much fun as you had watching it, although I don't know if everybody's going to have that experience, we'll get to that, but even I, who loved every minute of it, well, almost every minute of it, but still, I even had to realize that we were at the exact same place that we were when the movie started. And that's unfortunate. Or is it? If these movies keep making so much money. I mean, to be honest, I predict that casual fans will fall away because of the episodic nature that's taking over. Get it? Episode 8 of infinity episodes. But there are so many Star Wars fans, from hardcore to casual, that I think it will continue to do very healthy business anyway. I mean, I'll keep watching them if they're this good. So on that note, what exactly did I love about the movie? All right, so it's a long list. Yay! First, the movie is very much a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, it took me a couple of moments to understand the tone. I was like, what are you doing? You're crazy. Like General Hux. This is a non-spoiler review, so I can't give anything away. But let's just say the movie starts with General Hux. And at first I was like, this is horrible. But then I realized what they were doing, and I was like, this is fabulous. Accepting what the franchise is, but they're turning the episodes into, not the spin-off movies, but the episodes. Once you accept that, it's a lot of fun, right? So next up, boy, is this movie funny. It's surprisingly funny. Remember in The Force Awakens when the stormtroopers were walking down the hall and they saw that Kylo Ren was throwing a temper tantrum and they turned around and walked away? More of that, but just so much more of that. And I loved it. Like undercover boss kind of humor to some degree. And by that, I mean not just clever, but almost in some ways self-aware, which I loved. I don't know how all Star Wars fans or other people are going to feel about it, but it was perfect for me. Then also, by extension, there's a very strong focus on average Joes that populate this world. And I love me some average Joe moments. They're my favorite thing. And more than anything, they make me feel like I could be a part of this world. So I thought that was great. It's like there are no small parts in Star Wars. I thought that was fabulous. There are also a couple of great battle sequences in the movie. And while some people find battle sequences boring, I am not one of those people. Like, if you loved the big battle sequence at the end of Rogue One, then you will love this movie, because this is definitely an extension of that. I mean, I could watch X-Wing formations all day long. I would love to pilot an X-Wing. Now, next, there are also some stunning visual moments here, and one in particular that was heightened by an audience member's response. In fact, it instantly became one of my best movie-going experiences of all time, and I will tell you about it in the spoiler review. I wish that this person could be in everyone's screening to say what she did at that moment, because it would make the movie better for everybody. It was great! All right, then next, although I have to say, for the most part, you could hear a pin drop in the theater. People were paying rapt attention. Then also, I really enjoyed the practical effects, which made the Porgs and some other characters that we can't talk about have the quaint, cozy factor that so many characters did in the original trilogy. I mean, you knew they were puppets, but I thought that was great. And I love Porgs, by the way. I went in hating Porgs, but now I hope that they never, ever go away. And by the way, I would like to say that of all the merch that I've seen so far, the copious Porg merch, none of it has captured the fabulous essence of the Porgs. So I hope they keep working on it, because I'd like to buy something with a Porg on it now. But I haven't seen anything that again captures the spirit of the Porgs from the movie. They're so funny. Now, what did I not like personally, right? Was there anything that I didn't like about the movie, or am I saying only other people are going to have problems? No, I'm afraid I had some problems too. As I said, nothing really happens. So it's difficult for me. I know some people who aren't really into Star Wars, and they didn't like The Force Awakens, and they thought Rogue One was a little boring. I know, right? How could you find... Although, the beginning of Rogue One, once you've seen it a couple times, you start to understand where people are coming from. But anyway, it's hard for me to recommend this movie to them, because I'm like, I think you might be bored, but I don't see how you could miss it either. Then also the pacing is off. Like 2/3 in, even I was like, dude, I love what you're doing here, but it's taking you way too long. And then on that note, I think it was a mistake. I don't want to give too much away, but I think it was a mistake. I'll just say this, for the rebels to basically be parked for most of the movie. And the rebels come across as pretty incompetent, by the way. Like, wow, they got to really step up their game because they're starting to embarrass themselves. However, I would like to add, though, that I'm amazed that self-sacrifice and war has become such a big part of Star Wars after Rogue One and now The Last Jedi. That is such a complex, adult, sophisticated concept, and it's crazy that family-friendly Star Wars from Disney would become the franchise that best embodies that and promotes that. I mean, it makes for some of the most emotional gut punches of the movie. I mean, they work. They're earned. They're not cheating. I was amazed by them, in fact. However, it does seem that that's the rebels' only strategy. And considering the real-world history of that, from kamikaze flyers to what's happening across the globe today, like ripped from the headlines, I would just be really careful about romanticizing that Star Wars. You have your moments, you didn't cheat, you earned them, but let's maybe move in a different direction, okay? Especially because they keep doing it again and again and again. As for the characters, though, I think that Kathleen Kennedy, she's really been championing women in Star Wars and trying to really push them in the mythology, right? And she's been a little heavy-handed about it, but I can say that with The Last Jedi that she finally found a balance in the Force between female and male characters. And a lot of that has to do with Rey and Kylo Ren. I liked them both a lot here, and we have so much to talk about in the spoiler review. Tee-hee! I loved it. Okay. There's also Luke and Leia acting as a balance. There's also Finn and Rose. Just really good, equal gender representation. But speaking of representation, Poe, by the way, he has a lot of great moments here. They really upped his screen time, and the character benefits because of it. However, there was some question as to whether or not he was a member of the LGBT community. I mean, even Oscar Isaac seemed to be hinting at that. But I can tell you in this movie that they have completely shut that down and stepped away from it, and I think to some degree have even, hinted of going in the other direction. That's gone. Also, for those looking to Finn for representation, he continues to be a clownish character. I liked John Boyega's performance here. He had some nice moments. But boy, do I wish that Finn had more dignity. And they continue to really push the space janitor angle, for comedic effect. And it is helpful. But still, he's supposed to, represent something for a lot of people. And it's unfortunate. The movie, though, has some excellent villains. Oh, I love them! From the seriously menacing Snoke, huge Snoke fan, to the comedically sniveling General Hux. Again, once I got General Hux, I loved General Hux. Both Andy Serkis and Donald Gleason, I always mispronounce his name, but they are both huge assets to the movie. Benicio del Toro and Gwendolyn Christie, though, not so much. Finally, while the battle sequences, again, are very well thought out and visually striking, they desperately need to hire a better fight choreographer because the lightsaber battles are unforgivably weak. Like, wow. So in conclusion, I feel this is a don't miss for Star Wars fans and cinephiles because even though the sum is a bit unsatisfying, the individual parts are just too good to miss. Also, even if you're not into Star Wars, you know what? I say roll the dice because, again, there was so much here that was great. There was so much that was so funny. I just say go in anyway and prepare to be a bit bored. You know what? The more I think about it, this reminds me a lot of Lord of the Rings. Everyone can share their moment when they dozed off in a Lord of the Rings movie or a Hobbit movie, right? And speaking of the Hobbit, that franchise ultimately became too boring to continue, at least on the silver screen. And that's something Kathleen Kennedy should keep in mind. If you don't have some reinvention and you get too steeped in mythology, even if you have a ton of oh shit moments, and this movie has them, it's ultimately just not enough to continue. boy, with all the average Joe moments, I'm like, I really want that Disney streaming Star Wars series as well. But anyway, we can't talk about too much because this is my non-spoiler review of The Last Jedi, and I will definitely be seeing it again in theaters. And I think that's a pretty high vote of confidence. So now you can go see it for yourself and then join me for the spoiler review, because if you're into this movie, there is so much to talk about. And until then, of course, you can always check out some other videos right now.